Here we go.
Okie doke.
So Neil, I'm delighted to be chatting again. The CF project in Florence took part in February 2018.
Mhm.
And I'd love you to tell us a little bit about like what has unfolded since then,
Mm.
thanks to CF, and yeah, any impacts, any developments that would be amazing for people within CF world to know about.
Sure, thank you. So the most enormous, I guess, of the impacts that have flown from this, I very much see it um as a period of kind of planting multiple seeds. But the biggest one to flower was basically a very, very large, very, very progressive, really quite radical 20 million pound international development project. Um, that has been running now over the last 6 years, one big part of which I've been running. And I knew all the way along that the Florence gathering, and particularly the ways in which we used CF to build bridges across kind
Mm.
of divergent constituencies and to build relationships with people who were previously kind of oppositional and those who were kind of concerned, if you will, about the division, that led to like major openings within, in particular, one donor, but a part of the donor community for essentially much more radical and progressive approaches to doing international child protection work. And very recently, a couple of months ago, I was at the end of project meeting for this project, which I will actually say a bit about in a minute, with all of the organizations and individuals that had been involved over these past many years, and with the donor, who was essentially the sort of chief sponsor of this project and had been present at and very moved by the gathering in Florence. And he literally stated, this has all emerged from that meeting and what we saw
Mm.
was possible. And like as I say, I knew that intuitively, and I had a sense of, I know the guy, he's a friend, and I had a sense of the importance, but I had never had it outright
You
stated
said,
to me
yeah,
or to everybody else in that way.
yeah.
And it was unbelievably, what's the word? Satisfying. I was full of celebration. It was just really
Mm.
bloody cool
Yeah,
to know that.
yeah.
And the project itself, which has emerged from this, was a project bringing together UN agencies and parts of the international child protection,
UN is United Nations.
United Nations agencies, large international NGOs and academics who had been together and previously been kind of conflictual, but had come under the same roof for this project subsequent to the Florence gathering. And within that, 20 million pounds was allocated to do two things. One, a very large international participatory action research project around child protection. And with one of the kind of particularities of action research is it's very bottom up in contrast to top down, and is about supporting people to take action and have control over action that impacts their own circumstances, which is kind of the opposite of the way a lot of social policy and child protection work takes place. And the other part of the project, which is the part that I ran, was a combination of that, with very sort of NVC and convergent facilitation flavored community organizing alongside universal basic income or unconditional basic income. We ran a pilot project across a very large slum neighborhood in Dhaka, Bangladesh, where everybody received unconditional basic income and everybody
Mm-hmm.
received unconditional forms of community organizing support from a cadre of community organizers that we trained in NVC, convergent facilitation, restorative circles, and other things, which is pretty unique within this space, unique in
Absolutely.
international development more broadly. And is a vision of a hopeful vision that I'd had and others had had for some time, but would never have been possible without the Florence
No.
Gathering.
And how many people who were present at Florence stayed involved in the projects that you're describing? Like how many people
Good
actually experienced
question.
CF?
The Well, there were
yeah,
two people from that gathering, from the Florence gathering, and five organizations. So five of the organizations represented at that gathering were then participants within this project. Two people, me, and then this donor, the kind of strategically most important person in the room, or one of the two strategically most important people in the room.
So if the Florence gathering hadn't happened, those two major projects wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. No, definitely not. And for me, what's so beautiful about all of this is there is from a convergent facilitation standpoint, there's a real through line of CF from the gathering itself in Florence, to then the project taking place. The project was managed through multiple sort of political and practical hurdles, explicitly using convergent facilitation as a decision-making tool. And at multiple critical junctures, me and others bringing these teams together using convergent facilitation, all the way to convergent facilitation being one of the core tools that our community mobilizer team used to run the project on the ground. So there's this beautiful through line all the way through.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you. Without you, as well as the others, none of this would
I was in Florence.
I know you were. You were very much in Florence, and so
and it's
very
really
much thank you.
It's wonderful to kind of see the arc, you know, from that gathering and all the things that happened then.
Yeah.
And how fragile it was to build those connections.
Yeah.
All the way to this massive project and what it created. Yeah. So it's an enormous celebration, and I'm delighted we could capture it in this way to share with others.
Ditto, and I remain eternally grateful to the three of you, to everybody who was involved. It was a special moment for me, for this work, and for the very real, important things that it enabled, the life transforming things that it enabled for many folks who otherwise wouldn't have gone through what they did. So
children.
Indeed.
Let's remember the children.
In their thousands.
Great. Stopping now.